Okay, we are live. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Pat Murray, your host. This show emanates from Durham, North Carolina. I hesitate a little bit. I'm so used to saying Durham Skywriter. Okay, I live in Durham, North Carolina. I publish the Durham Skywriter. That's Durham, North Carolina's online community paper. You can read that at durhamskywriter.com. I also do Radio Skywriter, and that airs on WNCU. That emanates from North Carolina Central University here in Durham on Sundays from 6:30 until 7. So with TV Skywriter, basically I talk to people who are just interesting writers, entrepreneurs, artists, just interesting people. If you'd like to be on the show, just write to me at durhamskywriter@gmail.com. Now today, this show might sort of have a local focus, although foster care, of course, kids are fostered all over the country. But basically, our guest is here in Durham. So if we talk about rules or laws or whatever, they might only pertain to North Carolina. We'll find out. But let me introduce my guest, Sandra Reddish. She is from Alpha Management Community Services here in Durham. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you, Pat. Good to be
Very happy
here.
to have you here. So what do you do at Alpha Management Community Services?
I am the marketing director for Alpha Management Community Services, Pat, and we are an agency, a mental health agency, and we've been around since 1995. So I basically go out and educate the community and inform them about the need for foster homes in the eastern part of North Carolina as well as the Research Triangle area.
Okay. Now, whenever I hear about foster care, very often it's because something happened to the parents. They lost custody, like temporarily. The kids had to be taken out of the home, and the parent works toward getting the child back. Is that how it always works?
That's how it works. Foster care is basically a temporary living arrangement for children who need a safe place or safe home until they can be reunited with their families. Most kids who come into care, they come in by way of abuse, neglect, dependency, and the goal is always to place them with family members. And if there are no family members available, then we place them in a foster home until they can be reunited with the family.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out the difference between foster care and adoption. So when a child goes into the adoptive care, that means that the parents will definitely not get them back, and that's the way it's stipulated from the beginning. And foster care is always temporary.
Yes, Pat. What happens is when children come into care, again, the goal is always to reunite them with the birth parents or a family member. And if there's no family member available and the parent rights have been terminated, then the next step would be adoption. And we
Okay.
always try to take the child or the children with the family that, the foster family that they've already been with. So we go ahead and give them the first option to adopt the child.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to expose the child to a new person, a new family. We like the children not to, we want them to feel at home and to ensure that they are safely bonded with family.
Now I can imagine. I'm just guessing, but I'm imagining that the adults almost always know more about what's going on than the kids. So I'm wondering, when a child is in foster care or a teen is in foster care, are they given some kind of turntable, or rather, I'm sorry, timetable, so they can get some kind of a sense how long they'll be away from home?
Now, it may vary from state to state, but in the state of North Carolina, we try to work toward a 12-month reunification plan. When the child is removed from the home, we develop a case service plan, and in that plan, we purpose to place that child back in the home with their family of origin in 12 months. But of course, that doesn't always work because we deal with humans. So you know how sometimes we err, sometimes we don't follow the goals, or we may lag behind. But the primary goal is to have every child return home within 12 months, or to be in a permanent living arrangement within a 12-month period.
Okay, I have to ask a question about infants because I never really hear about infants in the foster care system. I'm just wondering if an infant, like a 5 week old or 5 month old child, is in the foster care system, won't they bond with the wrong person? I don't mean wrong person, but isn't there a danger that the child will never be able to bond with their parent, or am I just off base here?
Pat, that's a good question. What we ask every foster parent to do is we call it shared parenting. In other words, they share the child with a birth parent. So unless the court stipulates every child, especially infants, they visit with family, with the birth family at least once a week. And in that
Oh, okay.
time frame, they have an opportunity to bond with their birth family or the birth mother and father.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
we don't just move the child and then the child don't have any more contact with the family of origin. What we do is we have what we call visitation plans, and
mhm.
that plan is also driven by the judge as well as the case service plan. And in that plan, it stipulates how often or how frequently the child can visit with the birth family, and the foster family is responsible for ensuring that that child had the opportunity to visit with his or her birth family.
Okay, I was misguided there. I didn't know the child got to visit their folks. That's actually good, depending
Yeah.
on the circumstance, I guess. Now, I hate to ask this, but I have heard of cases. I'm from Chicago, and I can remember a couple of cases where very high profile cases where a child liked the foster family better and didn't want to return home. Is that commonplace, or is that just very rare?
By history, most children want to return to their biological parents. However, the advantage of shared parenting is that if a child does not desire to return home, then
Mm-hmm.
there's still that opportunity for both families to work together to do what's in the best interest of the child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, to answer your question directly, most children do return to their birth families whether they want to or not.
Okay, I guess.
Because the goal, again, the reason why they were removed was because of abuse, neglect, dependency.
Oh,
So once that family is stable, the parent is stable, the parent has every right to get their child back, and the
okay.
child has a right to, to be returned to birth family. I've even known of instances where um, adults aged out or left foster care,
Mm-hmm.
even in their 20s and 30s, they were still looking for their birth families. So most
Okay.
children rather be with a birth family living in a cardboard box than to
Mm.
be with an adopted family or foster family living at a big house on a hill with a white picket fence.
I know that's true because my mom was a kindergarten teacher for years at Parker Elementary School in Chicago, which is very, very low income. And she said that some of her students would run away from I guess they were being taken care of other people other than their parents. And she would tell me that every now and then a child would, uh, she'd hear that one of her students or the sibling of one of her students would run away and return home because she says the child almost always wants to be with their folks.
That's so true. And in cases like that, we always look at not the fact that the child ran, but we look at where's the child running to.
Mm.
And you're right. Oftentimes they will run to family. They'll run to people they've known from the past, people they want to be with, people they want to live with, people they want to spend time with, and they have a bond or connection with. So we always look at where's the child running to. So
Mm-hmm.
if that child is running to the birth family or, to the mother, father, then we by all means try and make sure that they have an opportunity to return home to them.
Sure. Now, what does it take to be a foster parent? Are you looking for, or when you are looking for foster parents, do they follow some kind of model?
Well, we first of all we look for people who are responsible. First of all, you have to be 21 years of age, have a stable living arrangement. You can live in an apartment, in a house. You can be single. You can be married. Alternative lifestyles. The goal is the question that we try and answer before we place any child is that family capable of meeting the needs of that child?
Mm-hmm.
Is that family willing to work with the courts, work with the agency to help get the child back to their family of origin? But again, so if 21 years of age, you have to have a job, you have to have income, a
Sure.
stable living arrangement, you have to have love in your heart and room in your home for a child. Because oftentimes we have people come in, they say, I want to be a foster parent, but they don't have enough income to sustain themselves, let alone a child, at
Mm-hmm.
least until they get the first board rate check. So we ask that you please at least be able to, have some income. And of
Right.
course, you have to go through our checks because we don't want a child to return to go to an environment that's more dangerous than the one from which we remove them. So
Yeah.
therefore, we do criminal history checks, central registry checks, sex offender checks. We have to make sure we do a fire inspection of the home. And of course, all these things, the parent will not have to do that alone. The prospective parent
Sure.
will not have to worry about doing it. What we do is we coach them through the entire process. There's no fee, there's no money. The only thing they pay for is their criminal history check, and we take care of all the other monies that's involved.
So
We take care.
do you take a look at not only the prospective foster parents, but whoever's living in their home too?
Yes, we also look at who else is living in the home. Every adult in the household that's 21 years of age or older have to have a criminal history check,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that everybody's that's safe, that it's a safe place for us to take the child to.
I'm wondering, how do you match a child with a foster parent? I mean, are some parents only willing or better suited for caring for little tots, and others are better with older children, are they assigned children, or do they apply for children? How do you make those matches?
Yeah, what we do is we try our best to make the best match. There are three things we look at, three basic things, and that is, first of all, can you be trusted? Is your home a safe place? Okay, do you have the time and do you have the love for a child? Those are things that we look at. But along with that, what we do is we just make sure that if it's a child who, let's say it's a 15-year-old female, and she may have gone through some sexual abuse in her lifetime, then our goal is to place her with a strong mother figure, someone that can look out for her. Let's say someone who might have just had a baby. We don't want to put a child in there like 10 or 11 years old. What we try and do is make sure that the parent is happy with the child and the child is happy with the parent. We want to add to that family system, not take away from it. So we try and place siblings together. We don't like to separate siblings. So when we do our matches, we basically look at ethnic, religious heritage, racial and cultural differences, and we provide that information to the applicants,
Mm-hmm.
concerning the child so that they can make a decision as to whether, this is a child that they would like to foster.
Okay. And what kind of help does the foster parent get, if any? Training,
Okay.
funds?
Oh, good question, Pat. We provide pre-service training, first of all. For becoming a therapeutic foster parent, you have to have 30 hours of pre-service training. In addition to that, we provide 10 additional hours of training that's specifically related to dealing with children with mental health issues. Because most of our children who come into care, they have losses and separation issues, so we have to address those. If not in a therapeutic setting, then we expect for the foster parent to at least be able to exert a certain amount of, parenting skills that could address those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic requirements is the benefits, most of all, is the foster parents receive a semi-monthly tax-free stipend, okay, depending upon the needs of the child placed in the home. They also receive respite service. We know that parenting is a tiresome thing, so we provide respite care for the parent.
Does that mean somebody
Um,
comes in to be like a babysitter?
well, what that means is that we would place a child with another licensed foster parent at least one weekend out of the month, so that the foster parents can get a break. They might want to have a couples night out, or might want to get away. But then the social worker also is there too to be available to supervise the placement issues, because we're looking at the resources and benefits. And then, of course, there's always a child and family team that's available to help make decisions about the child. So a foster parent wouldn't have to take on that responsibility of, making all the decisions and planning for the child's life. It's a team of people, which would consist of a psychiatrist, a therapist, a social worker, a foster care coordinator, and different professionals to, sort of help make plans for the child's future.
That's great because as the parent is working on their issues, the child's working on his or her issues. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the 24-hour staff too, crisis response staff. So if there is an emergency situation that the foster parents need some additional support, where they might not need additional support, then we have a staff person that would come and help out with that.
Okay. Now I remember a couple of years ago when you were on my radio show, you mentioned special conditions where a young person might have special medical issues. You did talk about mental health issues, but what about disability or other special medical issues that a child is dealing with?
Yes, we have professionals to address that as well. Alpha Management Community Services, we have two different components of our agency. Another area of our agency deals specifically with disabled disability clients. People who come in and they might have mental retardation issues, or they might be, have some other things going on that would limit them from being able to, to navigate in the community. So we also serve, serve developmental disability clients as well, adults and children. So they meet the needs basically of people who they're not in foster care, but they're still people who are living it at home, but they might need some additional supportive services.
Okay. I'm a little curious, when it comes to foster care, are the young people usually taken out of the community because their lives are have been disrupted, or is it better, depending on the child, of course, to have them go to the same school and be in the same, with their friends, in the same environment?
When we get a call and we have to, now let me backtrack a bit.
Okay.
Many of the clients that we serve in therapeutic foster care, they may come from social services.
Okay.
Let's say Durham County Social Services, they have a need for a level 2 foster home. It's 3 levels of foster care. One is traditional. That's like level 1. Level 2 is therapeutic foster care. Then we have level 3, which is group home care.
Oh.
So let's say social services call in and they say, well, we have a 16-year-old female, just came from, maybe just came from court and she needs a home today. All right. So if there's no home that social services can provide, then they will call us. So what we would do is look at our placement options, and that's where the matching comes in, and that's when it's really important for us to place the child in a home that's most appropriate for the child and family. So then we look at all the different, the social history, we look at the school district, we look at the child's family, we look at the reasons why the child came into care. Now, of course, some children, we prefer to place them out of the area. Remember, we provide foster homes in, we have 3 locations. We have one in Roanoke Rapids, one in Durham, and one in Oxford, North Carolina.
Okay.
So we can place children in any of those areas.
Okay.
So let's say if we need to place a child out of the Durham area, we'll go ahead and call and place a child there. But yes, what we try to do is make the best match possible, keep them in their own schools and in their own communities as well.
Wow. What usually starts the ball rolling? In other words, what does it take? What happens when a child is removed? I know you did say neglect and whatnot. I do know that neglect very often goes on for years, and I'm just wondering, what is it that takes it to the level where the child has to be taken out of the home?
That is a really good point, because oftentimes there's a certain stigma that the social service agencies carry, because people just don't understand. They're not aware that the agencies have exhausted, an agency have exhausted all options in terms of in terms of placing a child with a family whenever a child goes into foster care. Because the first step is that we explore relative options. We look around, let's see, can Aunt Sue take the child, or Uncle James, or even if they're out of state, we try to find a relative. And if there's no relative available, then that's when we look at foster care for a child. But before we remove a child from the home, we have to, first of all, look at the risk factors. If the risk of keeping the child in the home is greater than having the child remain in the home, then we have to basically follow that risk assessment and do what's in the best interest of the child. And oftentimes people will say, well, why did they remove Mary, but they didn't remove her sister, Marcia? And that's simply because Mary's needs could not have been met in the home, whereas her siblings' needs could have been met. And so what we do is we remove the child that needs to be removed, and the one that we leave, we provide supportive services to the parent, to the family, and the child.
Is that usually an age thing? I'm just curious about that.
Well, no, it's not an age thing. It's normally, the risk assessment is based on needs, a needs assessment, pretty much. Let's say it's a child that has some special medical needs, maybe some respiratory issues, or child has gone through some real serious medical problems, and there's a history or a pattern of the mother not meeting the child's medical needs. Then the court may deem to remove that child from the home, but will leave the rest of the children because the other children don't have that same issue.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
So do you have any idea how many children in Durham County are in need of foster care? I suppose the number goes up and down because
the numbers vary. They vary daily. They're probably changing right now because we have after-hours social workers who remove children on the weekends. But over the past several years, we found that more children are able to remain in the home or with family members because of kinship care. So right now in Durham County Social Services, there are approximately 100 children in foster care. Now with this agency, Alpha Management Community Services, we have about 66 children in foster care, but they're not only placed in Durham, they're also placed in Wake, the surrounding counties, Granville, Orange, Franklin, Halifax, because again we have 3 offices, and our foster children are placed throughout the eastern part of North Carolina as well as the Research Triangle area.
Okay. This is a question, this might be a little silly, but I do like Christmas, and I'm just wondering if you keep up with the kids after they return to their parents. And the reason I'm asking this question and thinking about Christmas is because what if the parent is going through a program, is going through the paces, getting the child back, and maybe they get the child back right before Christmas, maybe in late November, and they really don't have the money to treat the child to Christmas presents. I'm wondering if someone steps in, maybe the foster parent who has already returned the child to his family, his or her family. Does someone step in to make sure that child has a happy Christmas?
Oh, sure. And we always look for mentors, we look for sponsors, but we also look for people who just have a big heart and they're willing to donate items to our children in care. So what we do is we always remind people, especially starting around September, October, that the agency would welcome any type of support that they can offer to families, especially families who have more than 2 children, because it's really difficult for them. So you can volunteer, your services, your time. You can even donate items to the children, especially at Christmas time. That would definitely be a good thing to do.
I think that'd be really nice. Very nice. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience? For example, I don't know if you're allowed to give your phone number and.
Oh, absolutely. Pat, if I may also mention, we're having Spirit Nights at the Chick-fil-A on Highway 54, starting 3 consecutive Thursday nights, April 24th, May 1st, and May 8th. And any proceeds from your, let's say if you go in and purchase a meal, 15% of those proceeds will go towards the children in foster care that are supervised by Alpha Management Community Services. And those monies will go for activities, for foster care activities for the kids. That's one thing that's going on. So we have a spirit night, April 24th, May 1st, and May 8th. The other thing we're doing, Pat, is that our goal is to inform and to educate and let everyone know in our community that we need foster families. We need foster families. So right now we're having community information meetings. They're ongoing meetings throughout the Research Triangle area at various libraries from 6 until 9. And if anybody want to know about where to go for those meetings, and in those meetings we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about the stuff we just talked about today, in addition to more things like how much the stipend would be, you know, and how long the training would last, and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But if you're interested in just learning more about it, you can certainly call me at area code 919-638-5883. And we will give you more information about the spirit nights that we're having, and in addition to the information meetings.
Wonderful. I'm just jotting that down. That's really good information. So if you're thinking about becoming a foster parent, maybe you want to check out a meeting and think about it some more and maybe commit to some training? Because I guess you get called at the last minute, right? I mean, you don't get any warning, right, after you complete your training.
Right. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it as convenient as possible for people. So we're coming, our next community information meeting is going to be at the Northern Regional Library, which is in Northern Durham, on May the 13th at 6 o'clock. The meeting only lasts for 1 hour.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that start at 6 p.m.?
Does that start
at 6 p.m.?
Yeah, 6 o'clock p.m. until 7.
Okay.
On May 13th.
Okay.
At the Northern Regional Library. And we just recently had one in Chapel Hill at the Chapel Hill Public Library. So we're having them sort of every couple of weeks in different neighborhoods. So that you can certainly feel free to come out and learn more, and hopefully you'll pursue becoming a foster parent. Or if not, we ask that you go back to your community, or if you're affiliated with any particular faith-based organization or social or civic organization, we would ask that you would tell the people that you know about foster care, or to at least give them our number, have them call us, so we can get them on the right road if they're interested in pursuing becoming a foster parent.
Wonderful. Before we go, I just wanted to mention your brother. I'm amazed by your brother. You told me that Clint Deloach, your brother, is on television in China, right? He's a newsreader.
Yes, he's a news anchor in Beijing, China. He works for CCTV, so you can go online and look at him sometimes. CCTV News. He comes on at 12 noon here in the U.S. But what he does is he does the English version of Beijing, China's news. So he's reporting the news 5 days a week. He's a news anchor.
That is wild. I have to interview him. I can't imagine how someone got all the way over to China and became a news anchor. That is wild.
Yeah, and we talk about how things have certainly changed. Because remember, a few years ago, people would come to the U.S. for jobs. Now we have a lot of us going to other countries pursuing jobs. So things sort of turned around. They turned around.
That is awesome. Well, thanks very much, Sandra Reddish, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this interview.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to be a guest on TV Skywriter, just write to me at durhamskywriter@gmail.com. Again, I'm looking for writers, musicians, entrepreneurs, just interesting people who want to share their information with the world. And with that, and also read the Durham Skywriter. If you've never seen an all-positive community paper, Check out the Durham Skywriter at durhamskywriter.com. With that, I will see you next Sunday. Ciao. Have a great week.